Hi guys, welcome back to another video from me. And I came to a very interesting discovery, as always, in my urge of discovering and exploring and using reference from famous physicists and mathematicians and psychologists and metaphysics and all that. Immanuel Kant, Johannes Kepler, Isaac Newton, Copernicus, Pythagoreans. As more I study them, I figured out that they are actually they knew more than us nowadays. They have discovered the phenomena of nature, and the phenomena of nature is 95% of the optic illusions. What I want to say by that is that scientists doesn't tell us the reality. Scientists just tell us the phenomenon of the nature and the universe in the space. Never forget that. It's all about the optic phenomenon, about the nature and the universe. It's all about the optics. And that's why geometry is the science of optic phenomena in illusion. That's the first thing. And have that really in mind. It's really important. The other thing is, I think that actually everything is in 2D, in two-dimensional. And the phenomenon of power of 3D is through deep, through depth. Depth high, or you're looking down, up. It's depthness. The most powerful element of optic illusion phenomena is in nature is the depth. The depth, the deepness, the deep is what gives you the feeling of three-dimensional. And I think that in reality everything is two-dimensional, but through the power of deep, right? The deep is that the deep is the elements or the structure of deep are layers. So you have to see it like this. Everything is in layers. Let me show you an example like you see this? So it's a layer. It's a layer. And it's another layer. So everything is in layers. Oh, hold on, let me do it like this. I hope you see this guy from the camera, from the distance. So everything is in layers. This is how we see things. And the layers are this, look. Layer, 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 layer. This is how we look at things. This is so everything is layer. And this layer is the deep. And this layer, these layers, gives us the illusion, the phenomena of three-dimensional. Three-dimensional. So what happened in this layer is different from this layer, or is different from this layer, or is different from this layer. So that's why if that object, that person in this layer has its own time reference, and this person or object has its own time reference, and they are. Let me show you another thing to make it more not symmetric. Let me make it more like a little bit. So this is the deep or the depth. Gives us it gives us the phenomena of 3D. And that's how we look at this is our head, our body, and this is how we look at things. So each layer you see there in different formation gives us the feeling of three-dimensional. But each layer has its own time, its own time, its own reference. Each layer. So this layer can go in this direction. 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 So that's why you see things like this all the time. Walking, driving, it's like this. And these are layers. And the reality is that we look everything in two-dimensional. In two-dimensional is the screen. The screen is always two-dimensional. Two-dimensional, the screen. But through the depthness, through the deep, it gives us the phenomenon, illusion of three-dimensional. Right? Now, when you look in the sky, you see that you cannot, when you look in the sky, you see all objects are round. Half round, round, and the stars, all the planets, etc. And it's in space, but you don't see there any dimensions, right? It has no dimension. That's why we use in mathematics, in geometry, when we calculate in no dimension, or mathematic theory, we use always a diagram. It looks mostly like this. Calculating, this is time, this is space, and everything here is no dimension. And we use the acceleration, time and space to locate something here in no area, in space. So yeah, that's about this one. That it's interesting that when you look in the sky, in the heaven, all the toys, all the elements are round elements. And another thing is that when this is a screen, right? This is how you look always at things. It's always a screen. You can never see around or behind you. It's a screen. If you create in the screen another layer, let me make it more a little bit. When you create another layer, behind the layer, you see already a depthness, a deep. It goes deep. So when I do another one inside that, it gives him more deepness, but it's actually on a 2D. You see, it doesn't go in. You see that? It's 2D, two-dimensional. But through geometry, the optic, how nature works, it gives you the feeling that there's a depth in it, right? Let's make there another one inside that. So these are all layers. And then here let's make another one. make here a person who stands. Table. Let's make on this layer a ball, on this label another person. And here, let's say we make some another round thing. Then we make here another person standing here. So this is the reference, what I figured out. So this is how we see the world in our surroundings. It's actually like a flat screen like this, but through optical geometry, it gives me the feeling that there's a depthness. There is one, a little bit deeper, there's another person. Go a little bit deeper, there's another person. And I can draw objects into it, you know, and it gives the illusion of optic. So then I was thinking about that. And another thing is that these are layers. This is what I told you. The deep is layers. 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layers. So you see here's 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, 4 layer, 5 layers. You can go endless deep. That's why Pythagorean says never look in the mirror. It makes really sense. So I figured out that if you want to go from one layer to another layer, you have either, or from one room to another room, or from another layer to another layer, you have to either use a door, or you have to take a step, like stairwells, to go to the next frame, to the next dimension, to the next, or a line. So it's really interesting. I'm telling you, it's really interesting. So everything what you see is 2 dimensions. See, but by geometry phenomenon, I created a deep, and the deep I could only create it through layers, and that's how it is in reality. Everything is in layers, and each layer has its own reference. That's why you see people walking like this, other people walking the same time like this, other people walk like this. These are all its own reference. And to go from one, and these are the represented layers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can go endless. It can go endless in it. It gives you the illusion of depth. So I figured out if you are here and you want to go to the next one, to the next layer, you either have to cross a line, or you have to go on a step, up and down, or it doesn't matter, or a door. In real life, you either cross a line, then you are in the next layer, or you have to cross a step to go into the next layer, or a door to go in the next layer, right? So that's interesting. And when you look in your surroundings, in the city, everything has lines or steps, stairwells, or doors that represents that you're always entering in the next layer. And the interesting thing is what the Pythagorean says. It makes so much sense, but I think to understand all that is you have to be really focused and sharp into observing these things. Is that they said never look in the mirror. It makes sense because it creates this depthness. And they also say never cross a line. It's very interesting what the rules are, and it's just amazing. So that's what I figured out. So always the layer, from layer to another layer, which is the deep, right? That gives the feeling of moving into it or outward. It's always a borderline on the ground. It doesn't matter a line or a corner or a step or a door to go in the next layer. But actually everything is on a 2D. It's a screen. It's a 2D. And the interesting thing is that when we look into space, at daytime or nighttime, we see the sun or the moon and the stars, but there are no references. There is no dimensions at all. That's why we use in mathematics, in physics, in geometry, we use mostly diagrams with time and space to calculate things in a no-dimensional things. So it's very interesting to know that. Check. Just putting down my name. So it's really interesting. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned. Bye.